Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Rohith Namboothiri, co-founder of Inzpira, online training platform for communicative English, IELTS, preparation of soft skills. Rohit is a graduate of Madurai Kamaraj University and has worked for companies such as Acceleron Technologies and Grey Matter US before starting his own venture. Hi Rohit, welcome to ELI.
Thank you so much, Priya.
I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. So, as you introduced me, my name is Rohit. I'm an entrepreneur, first-time entrepreneur to be precise. I co-founded this company or startup called Inspira. So, Inspira is basically an outcome-oriented, curated marketplace for language learning, where we instantly let our users connect with the trainer and learn anytime according to their convenience. Outcome oriented in the sense our users can, at the end of the course, they can find better job opportunities through our partners, can find, settle, or study abroad. So it's not a casual learning platform. That is something that you would be getting at the end of the day.
Okay. Tell us about the current scale of operation, like how many people are coming to your platform and how many trainers are there
Sure.
and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Inspira has got 160 trainers across India, and we have taught so far 2,400 plus students. And I mean, these students are Indians from abroad as well, that is from Middle Eastern region and other parts of the world, along with people living in India as well. So around 25 core team members, plus these 160 trainers working across India.
Uh, as a business, what problem are you solving?
Sure. So, Inspire is basically solving one of the most, or we could rather say that we are disrupting the conventional or the traditional concept of education itself, or the way how adults learn English. Because in India, especially the early and mid-career working professionals, if you take them, as soon as you land a job, you can see that the entire weight of the family falls onto their shoulders. That is how the trend is, right? So, despite them knowing that there is a requirement for learning or improving their language proficiency, in order to advance in their career, they simply cannot do it because of their hectic work schedule and other family commitments. So, what Inspira basically or essentially solve is that giving them the most important element in life, that is freedom to choose their convenient time to study. For everybody, the time is totally different. Maybe it's either late night or maybe during the evening time. It's totally different. So we are not restricting the users on the time that they would like to spend on studying, rather giving them the total flexibility to learn anytime they want. So that is a major pain point that we are solving here. And an outcome, like I mentioned earlier, something you're not learning for the sake of it, but a motivation for you to complete the course so that you get something out of at the end of it, either in the form of better job or better opportunities.
Give us some examples of how your customers have found value in your uh, product or service.
Sure. So let's assume that I'm a 28-year-old software professional, let's say working in Bangalore, some big MNC, and I'm eyeing for a promotion, let's say a team lead or a project lead very soon. But I know that in order to do justice to that new position, I would have to really improve on my language skills. So the alternatives that they've got is to either join a traditional organization. Again, time commitment is a big issue, or join a self-paced video course, which the completion rate is pathetic these days. So if they join Inspira, the advantage that they're getting is that they can take their sessions according to their convenience. It could be 5 p.m. today, 6 p.m. tomorrow, 10 p.m. the day after. Not just that, at the end of the course, we give them an opportunity to not just advance in their career in their present organization, but give them opportunity to search for better opportunities or placements in other companies worldwide through our partners. So these are the best values that our students can get, just not learning for the sake of it.
Okay. Now tell us when it all started and how it started.
Well, so Inspira is, to be honest, not a company that that took shape during the pandemic. It was done even before that. So in order to reach that, I need to talk a little bit about my background, how I reached this. Before going into that, all those history of me as an entrepreneur, before starting Inspira, I worked as a trainer for a company, as a freelance trainer, to be honest. So that's when I realized that I had this inborn talent, or I don't know, some kind of skill to assist others, help others, or help them improve in their lifestyles. So what I and my co-founder did was we created a technique to teach the language in a very more simplified and gamified way. That is, instead of teaching the boring grammatical concepts, we started doing that in form of stories and real life examples we started working on. So we market tested this because at the end of the day, it was all about scaling and going digital, going global. But this new approach, and at Inspira, we do not have batches or group classes at all. It's all individual. That's what you do. So, training somebody individually, identifying their problems and helping them get a very good value or change at the end of the day is it's pretty complex. Every people are different. It changes accordingly, right? So we tested it out in a very small scale, in a very small space in Trivandrum. That's where we are from. For almost 2 years, we market tested. We failed 100 times. Then we rebuilt from the scratch. We made things more strong. And by early 2020, we already had our MVP, the digital platform where we started going digital. So the entire boom happened, we could say, probably by September 2020, where whatever we are today, the trainers across India and all those students coming from different parts of the world all started by September 2020. That's when we actually put Nitro Boost to our growth plan.
You mentioned MVP. Tell us about how did your MVP look like?
Uh, to be honest, even today, we are still running on our MVP because our product development is going on. So it's, to be honest, it's very fragile. It's a bare minimum for an organization to work, or basically to prove that your idea works. So we haven't invested much into developing the MVP. It was something that I and a couple of my teammates developed together. So it basically does what we are promising, and it's running smoothly. Now the product is the advanced stage of this MVP. So it's a very skeletal form. To be honest, I'm not very proud of it. If that's what you ask me. But yeah, it's running. It's operational.
Okay. Uh, Tell us about the team. Who are the people who are supporting and helping you to realize your vision? And how did you find them?
Sure. So I'm very peculiar about picking my teammates. So at Inspira, we do not have employees, we have family members. That's what we call. That's the culture that we maintain. So all of us are like one single thick, close-knit family. So it's very important for me to choose the best person, not just in terms of skills, but attitude-wise and being a family player. So Inspira's team building happened like almost 3 to 4 years back. First one is definitely my co-founder. So she worked in my previous company, and her name is Shruti Ramesh. That's how I met her. She was working for my previous company. We had this common problem that we faced in our childhood about language. We thought of solving it together. Then the next person to join, or the first family member to join Inspire, even today that person is there. He was in fact actually a student who joined Inspire as a student, really loved the way that we were doing, and joined Inspire on full time. Uh, First person. After that, the second and third core team members, we call them as core team, members. They joined after, like, let's say 1, 2, 3 years down the lane. So the entire Inspire is, the structure is divided into two cores. One is a core team, and then is outer layer. So the core team consists of key players who does major roles such as operations, the training, management, technical stuff, creative designs, HR, finance, etc. Like I said, it's basically a trial and error method. We have hired, or we have taken a lot of people, we have fired them, we have replaced many people. But at the end of the day, the core team is very strong, it's very thick, and we are inseparable. And that is the driving force behind Inspire.
Speaking of people, when you hire people, you'll have to pay them. Tell us about how you have been financing your entire operation. Have you raised funds or is it bootstrapped?
So Inspira raised funds recently, but before that, almost like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years since we were operating, we were totally bootstrapped. So we co-founder Shruti and me started Inspira with just 5,000 rupees in our pocket or bank account, and we didn't even have a space to rent. So I started Inspira in my living room in my home itself. That's the first office room that we had. So every penny we saved, like almost for 2 years, we didn't take any salary out of the organization at all. But every penny that we earned or we generated was put back to the business. So it's basically proper finance discipline, I should say. It's not even financial management, it's discipline. How and where you spend each and every penny that you earn. Think twice before spending it. So definitely paying these people is a very important task. There were even situations that we never anticipated. For example, the Kerala flood, which happened in 2017. So Inspira was really going very smooth, and then this flood came, and we were a fiscal institute. Nobody could come to the organization for like 2 to 3 months. We didn't have money to pay the salary, so we maxed out our credit cards. We took personal loans, but one thing that we made sure was, unlike other companies, we didn't go for downsizing. We didn't have pay cuts or anything of that sort, because these people, they trusted us. They believed in Inspira, and they're working for us. So they're part of the family. So we cannot just wash our hands on them. So we did whatever we could. I mean, I even at the verge of selling my own bike in order to finance a business. So they were like really tough times. So that's what we did. It's basically financial discipline and having that willingness to go to any extent in order to realize your dream. That's what I would say.
Okay. Speaking of extent, can you help us understand, as a entrepreneur, what are the different extremes that you have seen throughout your journey?
Sure. I started my first company when I was 15 years old. So that was a web development agency. So since then, I mean, I set foot into this entrepreneurial world. There were many scenarios where it was like too extreme against my, I don't know, sense or ethics, but things that we had to do even while dealing with clients, customers, or even with the employees itself. So one of the toughest situation I could really remember was a few years back. We had to literally fire a core team member who was with us like for like a couple of years, uh, because it was sinking the ship. So that was a very tough call, because removal of that one person would definitely affect the entire morale of the people working for us, because that person was kind of like influential as well. But it was absolutely necessary. It was very personal because we had built that very good bond between each other, but it was essential to remove that person. So that's one of the extreme situations that I face. As an entrepreneur, I had to remove this person, but as a person, my friend, right? So I can't do that. But ultimately, you're an entrepreneur, and you're not just living your own life, but you're living for others as well. So that's one situation I faced. But there are like definitely lots and lots of situations. But yeah, this is one situation that comes to my mind. Really, it was a very tough situation.
How did you find your initial setup customers?
So, like I mentioned earlier, Inspira started as a physical organization. So it was basically uh, approaching others. That's what we did. We had to. It's not like marketing, but we literally barged into the doors of other organizations, institutes, and offered free classes or free demos, and basically created an awareness in them, and slowly started pitching what made us different. And the first person who joined Inspira was basically our family members. So it's like friends and family around itself, you could say. Family members joined, and then slowly, once we start giving good value to our users, word of mouth is the biggest marketing that you could get in the initial stages. So that's what happened. The initial finding the first few customers was very difficult, not just for Inspire, but even my first company as well. So when I started Axelron Technologies, I had zero knowledge about what business was or what entrepreneurship was. At that time, we didn't have Facebook; it was Orchid.com. I hope you remember. So what I initially did was I just posted a scrap saying that the first 10 people who joins or who comes to me as a customer would get like, let's say, 50% discount. I thought it would work, but that's not how the marketing would work, right? So I had zero people for the first 8 months. My first customer or the client came after the ninth month. So all these lessons as an entrepreneur in my previous company, the place that I worked, really helped me speed up a lot of things in Inspira, because I didn't have to make mistakes what I did earlier. So that really helped me. But still, finding the first few hundred customers was very difficult. Uh, it was fun, but very difficult. Yeah.
After you found initial customers and after you gave them a satisfactory service, how did you then scale up? How did you find more customers? And
Sure.
any
So
growth hacks that you have
this,
tried to achieve those customers?
yes, I did. I mean, we have experimented a lot. So if you talk about Inspira, like I mentioned, we had two phases. One is the physical space or the physical institute we had, that is the pre-digital one and the post-digital one. So we planned it out very in detail. Every single month, single day was planned out in detail. So one advice that I could give to your audience is plan out everything as much as possible. I mean, it would definitely won't happen according to the plan, but at least you know that what is going to happen in the future. So we planned out every month, every day. So the pre-digital era was basically market testing for us, identifying the perfect market fit because it was a very small crowd. But we even, the individual coaching, like I mentioned earlier, with 6 trainers, we had 120 students walking into our institute a day. And we didn't have to make one person wait for more than 3 minutes or 4 minutes. So that was the kind of operational finesse we achieved in our physical space. So going digital was very easy for us because it's the same thing in a digital format. So few hacks that we did was uh, uh, shortening the time span, or I mean, reaching out to the audience with the best result. That is earlier while selling online courses, it was like, this is what we do, this is our product all about. But once we started selling the stories, we were getting good traction. So the one biggest hack is do not sell your product. Instead, sell the story or the result, whatever it is. It could be a service, it could be a product, it could be anything. Do not sell what you're good at or what you're doing. Instead, say why you're doing it or how you're doing it, and then at the end of the day, what you're doing it. So it's like the reverse introduction, right? That really worked. That's one good hack that I could give you. And the other one is keep developing your product, but don't wait until you develop it to the best of it. So it's like do it now, or it will never happen. So if I had waited, for a couple of months more to finish my product, I mean, Inspira wouldn't have become what we are today. I started with that worst MVP that I developed the first stage itself. I didn't wait for our team to complete the entire product development. So that's another entrepreneurial hack that people can follow. Do not wait. Do now. I mean, now will never happen again. So time is of the essence for everything. Yeah.
Now that you have come so far, acquired so many customers, raised funds, and all, what is the way forward? What is the vision you have?
Inspira is, I mean, it's not just India specific. So our vision is to definitely go global, go international, and embrace more technology to help others to create impact. So one vision or the dream or the mission that we have is that even though Inspira is right now training or teaching English, we believe that by helping one student or one person create an impact in that person's life, we are not just changing his family or his life. We are creating impact in the entire society or the community. We are changing, we're creating a big, strong impact because the community would look up to that person. The standard of living increases. So we would like to scale, reach out to as many people as possible in tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well, use technology to fasten our growth, and not just limit ourselves to an Indian startup, but be a global startup or a solution provider for language learning and achieving an outcome. So that's the way forward. I mean, yeah, all those countries that I mentioned, Middle Eastern region, Southeast Pacific, Europe, and of course India. So this is the path that we were taking. We are going forward.
What are some metrics that you measure to know how far have you reached, or what? How is it going every month?
Sure. So, Inspire, every department has got their own KPIs or measurements. But as an entrepreneur, I look at few key metrics. One is definitely the growth rates. The other one is revenue, of course. The third one is churn rate, like how many people are quitting or dropping off. That is very important because if the number is increasing, there is something wrong with your product or the solution that you're providing. So it is very important for you to track the churn rate. Then, of course, the expense or the burn, whatever you can call that as, because it's about, like I mentioned, it's about financial discipline, not management. So you need to be disciplined. So if your expense is increasing beyond your revenue generation point or beyond the funds that you have, you're definitely going to be in trouble. And definitely the worst nightmare of any entrepreneur is a zero cash day, or the moment your bank account goes zero. So that shouldn't happen. So the financial metrics, apart from that, your growth plan, the customer acquisition, CAC, that is customer acquisition cost. So these are the basic measurement that I keep a personal track on, along with other departmental measurements and the KPIs.
Okay. Uh, Tell us about the different challenges that you have faced so far while building and growing this venture.
Definitely, what it's. I mean, operationally there were like a lot of challenges, but every startup would have that. But situations that you cannot anticipate is the biggest challenge, because I mean somebody has already told that entrepreneurship is like the windshield is it's totally blurred and your rear view mirror is always clear, so you don't know what is going to happen the next day as an entrepreneur, right? So facing the challenge is the biggest task, and embracing it is the biggest thing, or the mentality that you should have. So the few challenges that I faced throughout our journey is one, the weather and the climate or the environmental changes that has really affected Inspira in the initial stages. Like I said, the flood, it was totally unanticipated. I mean, we were going in a very smooth, very in a steep growth curve, and suddenly it was a bomb, like an atom bomb that was dropped onto us for like a couple of months, 3 to 4 months, no zero revenue. So that was one big challenge, but I learned a lot. The second one is team management. I mean, it could be today you might hire the best person, and tomorrow that person might leave you. But you should be in a position to overcome all the operational challenges that would happen. It could be either the person is resigning or you're firing that person, right? So in my organization, also, like I mentioned, one key player had to be removed. Not just that key player, but many people had to be removed. So I'm kind of a person who always takes out or remove any kind of negativity or any I should use the word negative impact or influence in an organization immediately. So I have this kind of sense to, I don't know, to predict that okay, things will go wrong if this happens. So that's maybe an intuition or kind of an ability that I acquired over a period of time. But as soon as I spot it, I trust my instincts and I take precautionary measures to do that. So yeah, people management is another challenge that definitely you would face, and the third one is definitely the finance part. Revenue might change over and over a period of time, no matter how best kind of like financial projections or model that you bring or you build, but definitely you won't achieve that. That's through my experience. Let's say that next quarter you have X number of percentage that you want to achieve. If you achieve it, is well and good, but majority of us achieving that kind of target is, I mean, not really possible, but definitely might be possible for few people. So embrace that change. I mean, if you don't achieve that, what are you planning to do, or what do you have in mind? So you should be prepared for that. So financial challenge is one. Revenue might be, I mean, completely zero for 1 month, but you should still have to survive. That is another challenge. So Inspira has faced lots and lots of challenges. Anything that you can think about, we faced it over the last few years. So yeah, that's the kind of like, yeah, we go forward.
Okay. Now, coming to the personal side of being an entrepreneur, tell us why you have chosen the path of entrepreneurship. What drive or what triggers entrepreneurship in you?
All right. So uh, I started basically programming when I was 8 years old. I started developing websites. The reason why I started developing websites or programming at that young age was because I was fat. I mean, I'm still fat, but I'm kind of like huge. So I had zero friends, or nobody would ask me to play with them. Zero sports or zero friends or social circles. So computer was my best friend, and luckily I had this fortune to be with, or I have my first computer when I was really young. So had this computer, started playing around like any kid, started playing games, then slowly went into programming side of it. Then at some point of time, I realized that I can actually make money out of it. So at that time, I was again zero entrepreneurship. I didn't even know that somebody could become an entrepreneur like that. That time, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates are like according to you, at that, I mean, as a kid, they were like born as an entrepreneur. So nobody can become an entrepreneur. That was the attitude that I had, or at least the belief that I had. But I loved making money. I mean, side income. It's not big money like 5 rupees or 10 rupees. So I still remember in school, I built a website where people can search for song lyrics. And, I started selling that service to my classmates for 10 rupees and 20 rupees monthly recurring revenue I made. So there was no system in place. I mean, there was a form where my friends would, type in the song name. After going from school back home, I would search the lyrics from various websites and send them as an email. It was as simple as that, but I still made a recurring revenue of that out of that. So these were like the initial phases of me becoming an entrepreneur. So when I was 15, that is exactly after my 10th board exam, I launched Axelborn Technologies with a couple of my friends. It was a web development agency, my first venture. And to be honest, the main reason why I started this was to buy a sandwich from a bakery nearby because I didn't have pocket money. But apart from that, I wanted to have my own life. Basically, I'm kind of like a person who never follows the path taken by others. I go the alternate way. I never travel the same way. That was kind of like a mentality I had since childhood. So I wanted to do different. My parents said, "Be an engineer." I said, "No, I won't. I will never become." And just because you told me to become an engineer, I will not. So that was the attitude. So became an entrepreneur, not kind of like an accident. Then really loved it. Helping others and creating a change because when you pay salary to one person who is with you, that person's daily bread is depending on you, and you're like I mentioned, you're not just giving that person a life, but the entire family is, respecting you, and they believe in you, they trust you. So that feeling is totally different. Because of you, somebody is leading a very good life, even though you are suffering. That doesn't mean that your employee should suffer. So they're getting a good life. They're able to buy their cars. They're getting loans to buy their homes because of what you're doing or the dreams that you had. That was a very unique feeling I had since childhood. So, I mean, since the day I started my business, that kept me moving forward and I never turned back. That's my journey.
Very interesting. I wonder what you would have become if your parents had said, "Why didn't you become an entrepreneur?" So,
Yeah, true.
my next question: what would you say is the meaning of entrepreneurship to you? How would you define on the word entrepreneur?
Well, according to me, entrepreneurship is, in simple words, I mean, it's again not my words, but others have already said that over and over time. It's like leading a few years of your life like nobody else would dare doing it, but then lead a life that others would envy it or dream of living. So it's basically a stage of life, I should say. It's a path that you choose. It's not employment. It's not a job. It's a choice that you're making. You're basically sacrificing everything that you've got. So to others, especially youngsters these days, college kids, everybody wants to become an entrepreneur these days. They want to start up something new. It's good. But one thing that they're not remembering or they're not thinking of is the life of an entrepreneur. It's not that shiny, polished life that you see, like Richard Branson or others are living. They suffered a lot, like 40, 50 years, and now they're leading a pretty good life. But as an entrepreneur, when you're starting up, you're basically digging your own hole or grave and you're jumping into it and saying that I won't come or crawl up until and unless I achieve this. It's that difficult. So I'm not kind of like creating fear in others, but that is the fact or the truth. It's a kind of way of life entrepreneurship is. It's like if you had 10 rupees, you might have to give 9 rupees for your business and live on that 1 rupee. I should be prepared to do that. And sacrifice is built into entrepreneurship. It could be sacrificing your family, your friends, your social circle, your education, everything that you've got to lead a life that nobody else would dream of living at least for the next 5 to 10 years. Then you could become something that nobody can become. Totally, you'll be in the next level, next league. So it's a choice that you're making. It's kind of like a religion. It's a phase. It's so many things. Cannot describe in one sentence.
I think you have described it beautifully. And to the young audiences who think that since you mentioned about Richard Branson and other successful entrepreneurs, they're still working 12 hours a day. So don't think that entrepreneurship will become so relaxing and all after a while. So moving on to the final question, tell us what are the different lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur, which we can take away and apply to our ventures.
Sure. So, like I said, lots of lessons I have learned from my mentors, investors, customers, my employees, everybody. Every day is a lesson for you. Is a learning point for you because you, as an entrepreneur, you make mistakes every single day. So a few lessons that I can share is one, believe in yourself. So the first lesson that I learned is until and unless you do not believe in your product or the things that you're building or your idea, you cannot sell it to others. So you should have total 100% belief in yourself. Second one, trust your instincts because you as a human being can be fooled or can lie, but your mind, the first thing that tells you might that sign itself might be the true truth, or that might be the final thing. So trust your instincts because without you knowing, your brain and your personality is learning a lot. So they might be guiding you in the right direction. The third one is think twice before you act. So that's a very valuable lesson that I learned in my life. You should always think twice, or maybe even thrice, or maybe even 5 times before making any action. Because as an entrepreneur, as you grow your business, a single decision can have ripple effects throughout your organizations, can break things, can build things. It's totally unpredictable. So your decision has to have balance in it, has to have some kind of sense into it. It shouldn't be emotional at all. It should have logic to it. So as an entrepreneur, another lesson it's related to is that you should be in a position to separate yourself as a human being and as an entrepreneur. So you should have that distinct personality in you. You should have that split personality. So when your organization or startup demands it, you become an entrepreneur. But with your friends, family, and even your employees, unofficially, you are a human being. So you should have that ability to switch between an entrepreneur and yourself just like that. It takes time, but that's another lesson that I learned. I mean, it would definitely help others. I mean, lots and lots of lessons. I can speak hours and hours, but these are the few important ones that I could share right now.
Yeah, I could relate with the last lesson that you shared, and so true. Uh, Having said that, I think we have come to the end of the session. I would say it was an absolute pleasure to host you. Thanks for your time, Rohit, and our best wishes for
Thank you.
Inspira.
Thank you so much, It was fantastic, and thank you so much for this opportunity. And I hope my words and whatever I said will help others as well, especially youngsters or aspiring budding entrepreneurs. And all the best to everybody who's watching this.